right, we got to welcome in our next two guests who were taking some selfies, I think, while we were looking at the news headlines. So we're having so much fun here at the desk with Dave.
The camera was off. We were taking some selfies.
I love to see it.
Nix and I were at dinner together the other night. So
Nix Noletto and Wei Zhou join us now. They bring insights from the Philippines to the desk here in Hong Kong. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us. Yeah.
Good to be here.
Thanks for being here. You guys were at dinner last night, so I'm going to let you kick this off.
This is crazy. No. Honestly, I was like waiting for the opportunity to bump into Nix. I bumped into him at breakfast the following morning. The wheels were still spinning from our conversation, but he was talking about the Philippines and this opportunity to really have a real-world, again, application of crypto in a market that really needs that opportunity to have a more peer-to-peer and a less how shall I say, kind of like sand in the gears in their ability to kind of manage their own lives. And I was fascinated by it, but I didn't really appreciate exactly how impactful that was when you were telling me the story. Maybe it was a jet lag, but over the next 36 hours, I really appreciated it. Tell us what you're doing. It's so fascinating.
So I've been around in the tech space, operating in emerging markets for several years. And I think when you apply technology from the lens of an emerging market user, the use cases are very different. Learning how to service a market that's largely unbanked, whose purchasing power isn't quite as high, where logistics is a problem, allows you to create innovative solutions that the regular, first world market entrepreneur doesn't tend to encounter. So crypto is no different. Again, it's a capability that you try to apply to different use cases to solve problems.
I want to hear more about that user in the Philippines. So, Wei, I'll kick it over to you to introduce our audience to that. Talk to us about the user in the Philippines. I know many of us, when we think about the Philippines, we think back to a few years ago when play to earn really took off there. But I know that crypto has really evolved. So talk to us about how folks in the Philippines are using crypto to better their lives and solve some of those real world problems that we've been talking about.
I think one thing that crypto has shown is that when you have a really good investment product, people will want to come into that, right? And then one of the key things that I've been reiterating in terms of Philippines and I think just emerging markets as a whole is we sort of moved beyond the financial inclusion phase and we're now moving into the financial empowerment phase. And then and if you look at sort of like someone in the Philippines per se, there's a lack of investment products that we can invest in, right? There's no U.S. stocks. There's no other than sort of like the Philippine Stock Exchange, we can't invest in Hong Kong stocks.
Right.
Even there's no commodities exchange. It's really hard for us to actually invest in metals, right? And the reason why like crypto and Bitcoin and crypto gaming was so popular is that, there's something that we don't need a barrier. Like we can actually just go and get it ourselves, right? We don't need like a regulator saying yes or no, right? But I think we're at a phase now where I think there's actually a general demand now from sort of the investors that, hey, I have money now. I want to invest in something, right? And I want more choices. And that's true in the Philippines and I think it's true in most of the emerging markets. So that's why I think it's like the next phase of crypto growth is actually tokenized products. I think that's why we're seeing a lot of people talking about RWAs. It's less relevant, I think, in like a Hong Kong per se, because you can invest in anything you want in Hong Kong already, like real estate, gold, anything, right? Whereas like in the Philippines, we don't have that many choices. Like if we can bring that on chain, right? I can distribute those products through my platform the same way that I sell Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana and Axie and NFTs. So it's like that's what we're really excited about the next phase, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with sort of like, again, goes back to the theme of crypto. It's a bottom-up driven thing rather than a sort of a top-down driven thing.
Yeah, I mean, the analogy that comes to mind is emerging markets really never put landlines in. They went right to the cell phone. And so if you don't have appropriate banking rails, you're not going to need appropriate banking rails. You're going to go right to utilizing, tokenized exposures. Yes. Maybe if I could ask a question, this bottoms-up approach, I'm actually unfamiliar with the regulatory infrastructure in the Philippines. How impactful is that going to be? Is it going to be supportive of this, evolution and this innovation? Or is it something that's going to just develop alongside of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we've been regulated by the central bank as a VAS, which is a virtual asset service provider. Yep. That's sort of the word that's more prevalent in Hong Kong's VATP, right? And we've been regulated since like 2016, 2017. So I think from running a cryptocurrency exchange perspective, I think we've had both certainty and we've actually had pretty good clarity in terms of what's allowed and not allowed, right? But once we move into the realm of securities, then you're actually moving from the central bank as a regulator to a securities regulator and the SEC, right? Philippines sort of tracks U.S. in terms of like, there's the SEC. It's even called an SEC, right? It's not called so I think the SEC there has come out with what they call a crypto asset service provider, a CASP regime, right?
Okay.
That we're going to try to come under. So that way, everything that is securities related will come under that. And I think as a whole, there's been progress, albeit slower than I would like, slower than we investors would like. But I think it's going to come, right? Just because, like, how do you trap the country's money, which is kind of feels the way. And what I tell people is just sort of like, people are going to move their money out of your ecosystem if you don't give them more choices. Right. And and I think that's happening as is, right? So you, by offering more choices and then providing, decent coverage from a regulatory perspective, at least that money will stay in country. And then we can actually use that to grow wealth. Right. Because at the end of the day, it's all about wealth. You want to, save and invest to grow your wealth, right? And I think that should be that freedom or that ability should not be blocked by where you physically live.
Right. First of all, bravo to the Philippines regulator by going with SEC, because the alphabet soup of global regulators is hard to keep track of.
Very hard to keep
bravo.
Yeah.
Okay, we have about a minute or two left. What I would ask is, what is going to have to be unlocked for that next wave of growth or adoption? Nick, we were at dinner and you had all these wonderful kind of visionary tales. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts.
So one perspective is using blockchain and crypto to service the retail market, but the other perspective is servicing the business market. So if you look at the Philippine Stock Exchange, 283 listed companies, the total daily trading volume is about $100 million for all 283.
Incredible.
Quite tiny. But you have very good quality companies. Average PE ratio of the index is about 8. If you could tokenize those equities of these good quality companies and bring them to markets where there's a lot more liquidity, the access to capital and liquidity for Philippine businesses is another vantage point that you can look at the opportunity for high quality emerging market businesses and assets that hasn't been fully leveraged. Right?
I love hearing about how this industry is empowering people who have been largely left out by traditional financial systems. I think that is something we used to talk a lot about. And
use cases.
Real world use cases.
Yes.
And it's kind of gotten lost in the institutional discussion. So thank you both for joining us and having this conversation.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so
much
for
having us.
Okay.
That was Nick Noletto from Eden International and Wei Zhou from Coins.ph. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.